Christmas Eve is all about family, festivity, and fun.
Unless you're a Neanderthal. Then it's all about foraging, fear, and fighting for your life.
Survive the holiday with our Primal Marathon.
Next Saturday from midnight till 2 a.m. Only Toonami on Adult Swim.
The following program may contain coarse language, suggestive dialogue, and discussion of violent imagery and sexual situations. It is intended for mature listeners who can tell the difference between facts and opinions.
We've entered the 6th layer, and we can only go lower from here. On this episode of the Toonami Faithful Podcast, I am your host, Sketch, and with me I have...
editorial writer, VLord GTZ.
And...
another editorial writer, LaserKid.
And we are here to talk about the first half of the 2nd season of Made in Abyss. The Golden City of the Scorching Sun, which might seem like a misleading title. There's the Golden City there somewhere. Don't know if we've seen it. Don't know if we'll ever. Yeah, the El Dorado references write themselves.
Yep.
So let's get right into it. When last we left our intrepid adventurers, they had just had a quality time with Daddy Bondrude. And they got into the weird-looking elevator thing and started descending to the 6th layer, from which there is no return.
The magical Saiyan pod.
Oh my god, yeah.
It totally looks like a Saiyan pod.
It really does.
But, you see, this season doesn't open with them going down to the 6th layer in the Saiyan pod. No! We are instead introduced to another group of explorers. The Suicide Ganja. They're like a group of misfits that have joined together to seek out the unknown because they don't feel like they belong anywhere. And we follow them as they come upon the island where the abyss exists, and they discover a village that is surrounding a massive pit. The girl Voiko trades her relic for information, and they take a young girl who's been cast out by the village as their guide as they descend into the abyss looking for the Golden City. Why the girl was cast out of the village, you ask? Apparently, she cannot procreate. And I know what you're thinking. How do they know that? And the only answers are not good.
There's a lot of yikes things in this flashback.
Yeah.
Well, when we first are introduced to Voiko, we see that she was living basically as a slave to some creepy old guy who had delusions of grandeur and takes out his frustrations on his slaves.
Yeah. Not a fan of this guy.
Yeah.
Someone shoot him, please.
Just real disgusting. Real disgusting character. So it's nice to see that she's found some comrades and is now adventuring into the unknown. But yeah, she's carrying a lot of baggage, understandably. Among that group, we have Wazuken, who's the leader, kind of an older gentleman who constantly look like he doesn't get enough sleep. And a younger man named Beloff, who seems to be fairly knowledgeable and, all things considered, pretty good looking other than the scar on his face. Though, I mean, some people go for scars. He does, however, have very pretty eyes. So we see they go down into the abyss, and, well, we don't really get to see how well they do traversing most of the abyss. We kind of just jump forward to when they manage to get down to the 6th layer. But they're, not the primary characters of this story. So now, after these characters have been introduced in the kind of last leg of the first episode, we get back to Riko, Reagan, and Nachi as they ride down the sand pod into the 6th layer. And, well, gross stuff happens.
When you gotta go, you gotta go.
Yeah, they, it's true. They don't know what they're going to find when they get down to the 6th layer, so you might as well poop where it's safe.
Poop while the
And
pooping
then-
is good.
It's Menya's fault. Menya started it.
Menya did start it. It's true.
Who's Menya? Well, if you didn't watch the movie or listen to our previous podcast, it's a little hamster thing with wings. It's very cute. and
Who's
flat.
Menya? Making me feel very sad.
Menya.
Menya and
Yeah.
Pushka. See previous podcast where we tell you about all the movie stuff that happened.
Uh-huh.
Such a fun movie.
Such a wonderfully fun movie that didn't cause any amount of psychological trauma at all.
Nah. Easy.
Honestly, Honestly, that's how I felt about these first 6 episodes of this. And like, oh, no, this is like... I think, VLord, you said it best comparing the movie to this.
Teletubbies, you mean?
Yes. I was going to steal your joke. I'm like, I shouldn't steal your joke.
I don't know how much chronic pooping occurs in Teletubbies.
If that's the worst they're gonna give us, I know that's not. We have a whole other half of this season to go, and I'm sure that's where things are gonna go crazy.
Yeah. I won't. I've already seen it, but I'm not gonna tell you.
It's the prelude to everything going wrong.
Yeah. I mean, there's already some seeds of that, but we'll get there.
So yeah, Riko takes a big dump in the pod, and Nanachi makes sure that Bondrewd gets a good look at it because they're connected. Whatever Nanachi sees, Bondrewd can see. So he's like, "Yeah, come on, Bondrewd, get a good look at that, you sicko."
See some of this shit? It's shit!
And Bondrewd off in his wherever he is, thinking about it. Yes, marvelous, marvelous.
Such a fantastic texture and color.
Stupendous. Or as he says in the Japanese, it's subarashi.
Oh my god.
So they've made it down to the 6th layer, and they don't dare go back up. And their first thought is, let's find some food. So they find the friendliest looking local fauna and steal the eggs, crack it open, and see that it's moving. That's great.
Yeah, that's
So they boil it. It's still moving.
Yeah, as you do.
So they take some of the field rations, crush it, make a powder, and bread the meat, and then fry it, and it's still moving. Maybe the things around here have evolved to be able to handle a tremendous amount of heat. Remember that. Might be important. So they get chased around by some very dangerous creatures, but they find a moment to rest, and when they wake up, they have discovered that Prushka is missing.
Oh no!
And there's also some very ominous markings on a drawing. So they go out and investigate, try to figure out what's going on, and they find some creatures with their buttholes sewn up.
Yeah, that was
which
great.
they pull apart and find hair and fur have been lodged inside of those creatures' buttholes.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is Made in Abyss being Made in Abyss. And the fact that we're saying that this is Teletubbies compared to the movie should tell you how bad that movie was if you haven't seen it. But yeah, this is still... Oh, God.
It's still Made in Abyss.
Even when Made in Abyss is being relatively nice compared to its other parts, it's still what it is.
I mean, I just feel bad for those
I
creatures.
do too. Like, oh God, that would be horrible.
It would be very unpleasant and gross. Why would you do that? It must be some kind of warning.
Why would you do that? It would be a good description of like half of the things that happen in this half of the show. I'm saying half a lot, but seriously, why would
Honestly,
you do
like
that?
the entire series.
Yeah.
Why? Why would you do that?
Why would you do that?
Things asked of the author regularly, no doubt.
Yeah. Why would you do that? And why do you show that?
It's especially why would you show that?
Yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah. So they venture onward and they find a very large tower with just a bridge that attaches it to the rest of the land. And then decide, let's go check it out. And they enter this tower and find a bunch of disturbing things hanging from the entryway. You know, bones, cave raider gear, that sort of thing.
You know, just what you'd expect.
As they venture further, they find that it is a bustling village full of hollows, or what they think are hollows. Curious. A curious development. Naturally, most of them don't speak their language, but they did manage to find someone known as Majikaja, who does speak enough of their language to be able to help show them around and find out where Prushka was taken. So they visit the market and find part of Liza's journal, and they learn the value trading system within the village. Everything in the village has value. All of the villagers have something that they value tremendously, and they use that as a bartering system. So, for instance, there's a guy who is like a big mattress, and he values having cute things on top of him. Think of that out of context. There's more than a handful of not cleverly disguised fetishes. It's a charming village full of lots of creatures that are phallic shaped and shaped like other genitals too. It's just a great place to look at all the creatures, and I can't even with these character designs, man. They are
It is some crazy ass crack dream shit. I kind of like that because it's so creative, but sometimes it gets a little too much.
It's like a dash of Studio Ghibli and a heaping helping of perverted stuff.
Yeah, it's like a demented Studio Ghibli, if anything. 'Cause it's like, I think when I saw like Majikaja's design, I was like, I need an adult. I don't feel safe here.
I actually like that design. It is great. I think it's very interesting.
It's very
Majikaja's like a
interesting,
Muppet.
but also looks very wrong.
It does, but I kind of like that. It fits really well, in my opinion.
He's still one of the less distressing designs, to be sure.
There's something uncomfortable about the way he moves. It's all segmented and stuff, but...
Oh, yeah. Well, the reality is, what we see that is his body is just kind of a armor shell, and his actual existence is scents, smells. Just he's a sentient fart. He is a sentient odor. Anybody ever heard of Onogoro-sama? Now that's an obscure anime about a sentient fart. It's on Crunchyroll.
Well, all right.
Yeah, it's a thing. So that is to say that while plenty of these villagers take on physical forms, some of them take on more ethereal forms. Kind of interesting. They learn about the bartering system because Riko's like, "Oh, I need that page." And they're like, "Well, do you have anything of value?" "Oh, I don't know if I have anything of value." Then a horrible thing happens when one of the villagers, a curious one named Ma, decides to squeeze the life out of Menya. Like, squeezing Menya so hard that its guts pop out of its butt and its eyeball gets loose. It's very, very unpleasant. Naturally, Riko is very distressed by this, and before really thinking about what she's saying, when asked what the value of Menya was, Riko basically says that Menya's priceless. And then the bad things start happening. What we understand is the balance occurs. And because of what happened to Menya, Ma is then attacked by these sentient slime tentacles that come out of nowhere and start ripping limbs and precious items out of Ma in order to be converted into value to give to Riko as compensation for what happened to Menya. Now, Riko wouldn't have wanted this to happen, but she kind of inadvertently caused it. And it's very unpleasant. Very unpleasant to see Ma ripped to shreds. But somehow they survive. Just, ugh. And that's when we learn about value, and that the most terrifying thing in the abyss is capitalism.
Oh my gosh.
We can never escape capitalism, guys. It's always there.
True. It's true. Well, now they have some scratch, so Riko, Reg, and Nanachi can get a room at an inn, and Riko samples some of the local cuisine, much to her intestines' chagrin.
Oh boy.
I'll say this about Riko. She's always willing to try something once.
Yeah, that does appear to be the case.
Not always a good idea.
No, not always.
This girl has no sense of self-preservation. So it's bad poop times again. So both Nanachi and Reg go out on their own to explore, leaving Riko at the inn, where she has terrible, terrible shits and sits upon a living toilet that is more than happy to consume her value. And if you didn't realize it, that toilet is also a villager.
That toilet is the bidet of the future.
I saw someone make a joke about, it's a living. I'm like, yeah, that's a mode.
Yeah. And you think your job is shitty.
Well, at least the Flintstones have been remembered in anime somewhere.
there seems to be several villagers that function as like doors or some appliance. So of course there would be a toilet. Of course.
Yeah, it's weird to think about because at one point, don't they mention like their forms are supposed to like reflect like their inner selves from when they were like human?
It's supposed to like reflect their greatest desires.
So their greatest desire was to be a door?
I will be a door to the future.
I guess. Somebody said, hey, you'd make a better door than a window, and they took it to heart. What can I say? Yeah. kind of skipped over the fact that they find out that Prushka has been taken to this one shop where where they had been given to the shop owner, and they're not really sure how to get her back yet. So that's kind of pinned for now. But it will come up again. Majikaja shows Nanachi around, and an offhanded comment leads to the startling revelation that somewhere in this village exists MIDI? Excuse me?
That's quite a thing there, yeah.
How? Why?
We made a copy of MIDI, including the soul, because we can do that apparently.
With the magic power of capitalism.
Oh my god.
Yeah, you see...
See, folks, capitalism has saved us all, because you can copy your own soul even. Just make your soul do all your work for you. It's fine.
Yeah, just trying to understand what this actually means. If it copied the soul even, like... Ugh. Let MIDI rest. Ugh. Upsetting.
Yeah, it also makes me wonder then, like, when things die in the abyss, do the souls just get trapped in the abyss then?
Oh,
Because, like,
boy,
how else is this working?
I don't know, man. We know there's some, like, magical things in the abyss, but... Man... We know soul transference works because of Bondrude, but ugh. Like, you really have to ask yourself, is that really MIDI's soul in there? Does this MIDI recognize Riko? She wouldn't recognize Riko because this version of MIDI wouldn't have met Riko. But does it recognize Nanachi? You know, it probably feels pain. It's just gross, and
it's just uncomfortable to see.
Yeah.
And Belov, gave up a tremendous amount of their organs, arms, all of their appendages, so they're just this big serpent creature with a freaky head. In order to recreate MIDI, quote unquote, soul and all, after Bondrude had apparently come down to this village and wouldn't sell her for any amount of money. Of course he wouldn't. Of course he wouldn't sell MIDI. Let's think about that. We know what happens when you go back up. So one, MIDI is not affected by going back up from the curse. Two, Bondrude definitely sacrificed several bodies and orphans in order to make it down there and come back up. I hate that guy so much. Just he's a bad man.
Yeah.
Just ugh. Right. So now Nanachi is, after kind of making peace with moving on from MIDI, is faced with this dilemma. this terrible Sophie's choice. What do I do? Do I continue my journey, or do I give up my life to Belov in order to free Mitty from Belov? To free great value Mitty from Belov. It's well, maybe you could consider it a moment of weakness, but Nanachi decides to give themselves up for great value Mitty.
Yeah, that's no bueno.
It's not. Meanwhile, Rig has an encounter with Faputa, the princess that all of the villagers they're both terrified and bewildered, and like they practically worship her. He has an encounter with this being Faputa, who claims to know Reg, and Reg admits that he's lost his memory and doesn't remember Faputa at all. So she proceeds to test his body to make sure it's him by doing things like stabbing his soft belly button. Ugh.
Yeah, that was very unpleasant.
Very, very painful. Very unpleasant.
All the bad memories of the movie started coming back.
And lots of sniffing and like, oh, what happened to your arm? Did somebody hurt you? Yeah. And, sniffing all around and examining the body thoroughly. We'll leave it at that. And, yeah, Reg doesn't stick around. He ends up having to fight off one of those tall... How do you even describe that creature? It's like kind of bird-like, but it's tall like a giraffe, and it's
bird giraffe.
Yeah, it's like a you mix a rooster and a giraffe, and you get that.
Yeah, kind of. And it's very good at fighting against Reg, and also vomits up dangerous stuff at him. And Reg's like, gee, Liza, could have used some information about that thing. Yeah, sure would have come in handy. So after having a excessive poop session, Riko drinks a bunch of water, thinking what Leader always told her. Don't get dehydrated. You could die. And also, you should eat, even if you're not hungry. She ventures out looking for Reg and Nanachi and finds some actually very unfriendly villagers that kind of intimidate her and get her into an alleyway, and things are looking real bad, but she manages to escape with the help of Ma. Ma.
Ma may have accidentally hurt Minya, but is actually kind.
Yeah. These guys also hurt Minya. Will you please stop hurting Minya?
Poor Minya. Oh, God, that was also painful to watch. There were some moments in this season they're just like, oh God, why?
Yeah.
They escape, and it seems like Ma's actually one of the good ones. Yeah, Enrico is kind of apprehensive, but eventually lets Ma hold on to Minya as long as Ma's friendly and careful. So Riko, with Ma, returns to the market where she tries some more of the local cuisine. And at the restaurant, she meets one of the sages, Wazukin, and the hollow running the restaurants, whose name is Mugi. Wazukin's like, hey, human child. Yeah, having a good time? Yeah, cool. All right, I'm out of here.
Hello, fellow children. I too am a children.
God.
Totally unrelated to Made in Abyss, but I just gotta say, the latest Pokemon game totally pulled a hello, fellow children. It's ridiculous. Fun game. Way too glitchy, though. Thankfully, they're patching it already.
Oh, good. I was
Yes.
not aware of that.
So that's the sign. Yeah. So anyway, Riko had herself some very spicy Rocky Mountain oysters. Yeah, they balls. Which she had to eat with a tiny, tiny, tiny spoon. This tiny, tiny spoon. I love Riko's logic of, oh, that individual over there has a mouth kind of like mine. I bet I could eat what they're eating. Well, it's not the worst line of logic, but luckily it worked out this time. And the food is delicious. It's balls, though. It's balls. It's testicles. Testicles from a hollow that can apparently keep creating testicles in order to keep providing this food to the village. Great. This village is so weird.
It really
Village
is.
is disgusting.
It is. So Riko's had about enough of not being able to understand anyone. So when Mugi makes it clear that she speaks some of the same language as Riko, like Machikaja, Riko's like, hey, can you teach me how to understand this language? And apparently a lot of their words are like a combination of words. And the word for their village apparently has mother inside of it. That's interesting.
Yeah, that was in Mother Russia disconcerting.
Yeah. So she has a nice chat with Mugi, and Riko asks where she might be able to find Nanachi and Reg, and Mugi's like, well, there is this one place that none of the villagers will go to, because as soon as you get there, you start feeling really run down and ill. So maybe they're there. Oh, okay. I don't think Mugi knows what's down there, but it seems kind of sus that she would direct Riko there. So that's whatever. So naturally, Riko's like, yeah, I'll take that advice. So Riko and Ma climb down into this pit where Ma is definitely not feeling it. And they find Voiko, who is kind of chained up in all this goop. And she's very perplexed that she has a visitor and is having a hard time communicating because she hasn't had anybody down there in a long time. But long story short, Riko's like, I don't care if you're a good person or a bad person. If you can help me find my friends, I'm going to let you go. Because Voiko can't free herself from this situation. She needs somebody to free her from it, which Riko is more than happy to oblige. Voiko has apparently been down here naming all the creatures that perform the balancing. Interesting. She can sense signals from throughout the village, and that's how she knows where Reg and Nanachi might be, based on those signals. So they managed to get Voiko out of the pit, whose legs have atrophied after a very long time. So she gets some help getting pulled back up, and we see that Ma is, well, throwing up and not looking well. So it takes a tremendous amount of perseverance for Ma to even be there. So props to Ma, though.
Props to Ma.
Probably shouldn't have gone down there. Probably shouldn't have. You didn't exactly add anything. You could have hung back. But still, way to show that bravery. Ma went from, oh, I hate that thing, to, oh, actually pretty cool, except for that saggy butt and the unpleasant-looking appendage. But it's cute, right? It goes, ma. That's all it does, ma.
It is cute, especially not especially, but especially when you can see its bare butt.
Saggy butt.
Saggy butt with the fur ripped off. Oh yeah. Thanks. Thanks for that one, Maiden Abyss. I'll never forget that, and I wish I could say that for the right reason, but yeah.
What is up with the series and butts?
Reminds me of Reincarnated Slime. Hey, butts.
Yeah. So with Voiko's help, they they go up to find Nanachi, who's currently with Midi laying beside Beloff, and Riko almost trades parts of her body, very vital parts, like both of her eyeballs, both of her legs, or a large percentage of her organs. But before she makes the deal, and what a cliffhanger that was, Majikaj is like, whoa. You're not going to live if you do this. I don't care what he says. If he tries to take those things from you, you will die.
I'll try to keep you alive.
Try to keep you alive.
I'll try. Beloff, I don't know what happened to you when you were Mr. Cool Guy with a scratched eye and creepy eldritch monster, but something really wrong happened to you.
Yeah, pretty messed up in the head at this point. Yeah.
I mean, he did have pretty eyes, and now he wants a pair of eyes.
Makes sense.
He's completely warped from the one personality to the other. It's like, oh god, I don't know what's gonna happen in these next 6 episodes, but I'm sure we'll find out what happened. And I'm sure it's screwed up beyond... We have some hints. One person was against whatever happened to this place.
Yes, the reason why Voiko was chained to the balancing system was because she opposed the establishment of the village. Whatever that means.
I'm sure we'll find out.
But once she gets up and she finally sees it with her own eyes, she's like, hey, it's actually a pretty nice place.
Well, she was saying, from being able to sense it with the balancing stuff, she's like, I think it's okay now.
Yeah. It just... mistakes were made, but the current villagers living here, they're not so bad.
Some of these guys want organs and skin, but it's fine. It's
fine,
good.
you guys. It's fine. I mean, it's the city of capitalism. What could possibly go wrong?
Right. So Majika just stops Riko from trading very important parts of her body.
Can I just say, he may be creepy looking, but I like Majikaja. He is interesting because we're just making these capitalism jokes. He didn't have anything to gain from being like, hey, you probably shouldn't do that.
Well, I mean, he said before that he doesn't want to ruin Riko's value.
That's true. But why?
Because the most valuable thing down here is a human child.
I guess.
And he does get some of that value later.
Yes,
he does.
Yes, he does.
He gets a little bit of that value.
He does.
He was investing in the future worth of Riko.
No, what we're saying is that Majikaja is the right kind of capitalist.
Nah, Majikaja is a Wall Street stock investor.
Oh boy. Right. So the villagers can't leave this village. So they have to do this thing called the luring, when they lure some of the local fauna of the abyss into their village so that they can hunt it. So they're in the process of doing this, and Voiko's like, "Ooh, I've never seen this before. Let's watch it." And things aren't going well. It's proving to be too much for them to handle. And Riko runs off to the shop where Prushka is because the creature that they lured in is heading in that direction. There, the craftsman is still there, and he has fashioned Prushka into a playable whistle and gives Prushka back to Riko before attempting to defend itself from the creature. And as a side note, he mentions in his own language that once he completed fashioning Prushka into a whistle, he was so pleasured by it that he climaxed.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks for the press release there, guy.
This is just the city of fetishes at this point.
Yeah.
It's like, don't I have to pay you anything for it? No. Payments has
I
already
already got off. That was
Payment
more
has
than
already
enough.
been received.
Why are they all
well,
so creepy?
Nice of the shopkeeper to give Prushka back, and
he did also say, it insists.
It insists, yes. Well, Prushka's still in there,
That
and
really surprised me, honestly.
and before, Prushka in whistle form, you couldn't play it. It wasn't usable as a white whistle yet. So the craftsman has managed to turn Prushka into a playable whistle, which is a very good thing.
I'm not gonna lie, this made me tear up in a good way. Just like, there she is.
Yeah, seeing the spirit of Prushka ever so briefly. Telling Riko to play her. Yeah. So one of the other sages, known as Droimo, appears as this big dude. And he pulls out his great sword.
A sword of legend.
And challenges the creature. Because Droimo values strenuous activity. Read into that what you will. This I don't know how this works, because this dude has the same name as the big guy that assaulted Voiko. I don't think he was in the crew though. So I don't. Several questions. Also, when he pulled the sword out of its chest, there was a vagina there that it pulled the sword from.
Thanks, Magnibus. We needed that symbolism.
Riko's like, it looks sticky. Yeah. Anyway, Droimo loses, which is very bad, because Droimo's like the biggest, baddest, toughest fighter around, and it shows up because it enjoys strenuous activity. It's looking for a challenge. The other sages apparently will not show up unless the membrane of the village is pierced. Great. Thanks, guys.
You guys are the best defenders.
And Riko comes up with a plan to ensnare the creature and trade some of her hair to soup up Majikaja.
Mechabike Majikaja.
Riko action figures sold separately.
Now, if only they did the Akira slide.
Oh man, if only.
That's a missed opportunity. You're right. I will say I love the sequence though.
Yeah, it's really cool. I also like how the opening reinterprets some of these moments in very dramatic, epic ways. So Riko, on a very souped-up, fast Majikaja, has become the bait and is drawing the creature away to a place where it gets caught looking at itself in a mirror and is, very perplexed at the creature standing in front of it because it's a mirror. And the villagers attack it, light it on fire, and things seem to be going pretty well until they're not. And it looks like they're in for a lot of pain, but MVP Ma jumps up and sacrifices themselves to protect Riko. And in this heated moment, that's when Riko can feel the spirit of Prushka telling her to play the whistle. So she does that, and suddenly Reg appears, powered up with his helmet and armor glowing white. And Reg
was cool.
Yeah. And Reg defeats the creature rather anticlimactically. It's like over before it's even begun. And that's when one of the sages, Wazukan, shows up just to tell him that that wasn't one creature, but rather a hive of organisms that was guided by a queen. And now that the queen is dead, the small males would try to form a new hive, but they're not going to be successful. And Wazukan also suggests that a piece of Faputa, the embodiment of value, might be enough to give to Beloff to free Nanachi and Midi. So back at the inn, Riko catches Reg up on recent events, and Reg decides to seek out Faputa again to see if he can get a piece of that embodiment of value. So we just got Reg back, and he's off again.
Reg is blasting off again.
Riko asks Voiko about Faputa, and Mugi stops her and demands to know who Voiko is. At which point, Voiko divulges the truth to them. And that brings us to where we left off. And in the coming episodes, we will learn the secrets of this village.
I'm sure everything was fine. Nothing bad happened in the village, I'm sure.
Such a peaceful village. Nothing could possibly go wrong.
Yeah. It's just like good old Bubsy said. What could possibly go wrong?
Uh-huh. Exactly. There are plenty of moments of foreshadowing throughout this that I probably didn't touch on. But they're there, and hopefully you've been watching. So yeah. Well, there's certainly a lot of creativity in this.
As much as I go, oh god, why half the time, I am still enjoying the storytelling. It's been really interesting to see, hey, it's not just Nanachi. Hollows don't necessarily turn into just horrible monsters down here. I mean, the civilization's weird and crazy and creepy a little bit, but it's not like going into the Resident Evil village, if you catch my meaning.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see how this all plays out, and I'm also very happy to get more on Reg's backstory, because we're getting a bit more of that. We now know what he is, sort of. We have a name. Displacer units. But what that means, how that works, and then, of course, what his history in this village is, we'll just have to wait and see.
Supposedly, he could be one of the true residents of the Golden City.
He could be.
Yeah,
But-
I feel like definitely what kind of keeps me invested in this is like Reg and Nanachi. So I'm kind of glad that Laser, we're getting more about Reg here. And like even though a lot of like the imagery in this season so far has been kind of gross, like it kind of does, I think, help evoke this kind of unsettling feeling that like, yeah, a lot of the people in this village are friendly, but there's like something off here.
It's the Abyss. As much as I've complained about some of it, and I believe our complaints that we've all made are legitimate. If the Abyss didn't feel off, it wouldn't. The show wouldn't be the same.
Yeah, I'd agree. Though I could probably do with less butts.
I could do with less butts. I could do
And
with
Less
less
phallic
butts.
imagery.
less
butts,
pooping,
less pooping, less private parts, all around. All of that would be great.
less stabbing of belly buttons.
Less peeing.
Less peeing.
Yes.
Yeah, the belly button stab. Okay, creepy as it is, I'm fine with it. It's not
Less bodily function.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now I'm thinking about the reg peeing thing from the movie.
Oh god. We're gonna do
Uh,
like with 10 billion% less of that.
Taking fluids.
Yeah.
yeah, no
Yeah.
thanks.
No more of that shit. I did like how Reg was asked, "Who did this to you?" And now knowing that Bondred's been here, getting that answer could be very, very interesting.
Perhaps. I wonder if they're ever going to be able to fix that arm.
I would hope so. It would kind of be weird if the entire rest of the story is just like, oh yeah, no, it's the one-armed robot.
But he can still feel the arm though, right? Because like in the movie, you mentioned like he has like phantom limb in a way.
Yeah,
But I'm
something
not sure
like
if that means he can like shoot the beam out of it again, or if Riko has to do it like manually.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it can fire the incinerator again after it was fired that one time. I guess we can find out. It'd be real convenient if it could fire the incinerator and not knock out Rake.
That would be great. Have power plants means he doesn't get knocked out. See, him losing an arm actually worked out.
Perhaps. Reg is also adapting his fighting to be able to cope with not firing the incinerator. Good job, Reg. Good job. Also, the power-up helps.
Yes, it does.
Mm.
Definitely helps. And it's so cool looking and shiny. And
It's super.
I mean,
Reg.
it could just be the contrast with his normal, but it kind of looks like he gets darker skin too when he
It kind
does
of
that.
does look that way, yeah.
But again, it could just be the contrast. Normally, his armor is very dark blue, so yeah. Very curious about these other robots that apparently can only exist on one layer, whereas Reg is able to travel between them. Very interesting. Very interesting. So, even though these the ganja came here many years before Riko, Reg, and Hanachi did, clearly there was something there before that. What is the mystery of the Abyss? Perhaps we'll find out someday. And if you want a very family-friendly version of something kind of like Made in Abyss, then go see Strange World.
Fair enough.
The whole time I'm watching Strange World, like, yeah, is this like family-friendly Made in Abyss?
Made in Abyss, if it wasn't really creepy.
Yeah. Yeah. Fall down a big hole. There's this fantastical world to discover. It's good. It's a good movie. I hope people go and see it. It's well worth seeing on a big screen. But people are just gonna wait till it comes to Disney Plus.
I mean, I'm going to be honest, that's probably me.
Fair. But if you can go see it in theaters, I would highly recommend it because the spectacle is well worth seeing on a big screen. That's a kind of related plug. Anyway.
Hey, it's good to know it's good.
Yeah. I enjoyed it a lot. Yeah, so far, weird, gross stuff has happened, but yeah, compared to the last few episodes of season 1, much less the movie, it's definitely easier to stomach.
Yeah.
But just you wait. Just you wait.
I'd say up to this point, I think Kuro would have been fine. But if it's gonna go, if that other shoe's gonna drop, maybe not.
Yeah, it's probably good she got off where she did.
Yeah.
And Darrell too, apparently.
Oh wow.
I don't know if he
surprises
stuck with
me.
that, but he was saying he was done.
Yeah, I don't blame them.
I don't blame them one little bit. I'm just too curious to see where this is going. It's like a drug addiction at this point. It's like, I need to know, but it's going to be horrible. I know, but I need to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if you take all the gross stuff from the series, I actually enjoy it, but it's like it's a big turn off at times.
But if it doesn't have the gross stuff, it's not made in a bit.
Oh my gosh.
True. Like, okay. Like, if it was violent, but not, like, with a lot of the sexual, like,
You can
Oh,
be
yeah.
gross
stuff.
without being there's poop and butts being sewn up and private parts.
Yeah.
And a toilet that licks your asshole.
Okay,
Okay,
that one
I was
okay
fine
with.
with.
That one
That was
I'm okay
cool.
with. I mean, it's creepy, but you know what? I'm okay with that level of creepy. It's when they go past that I'm just like, why though?
Yeah, like meat suitcases, I can deal with that. Seeing Reg get, like, a piss tube put into him, nah.
I can deal with the meat suitcases until it starts getting licked.
Yeah.
Oh, Proska.
Yeah.
Just see him in your front over there and start.
And then when Riko spills the meat suitcase.
Oh, God. Like, as much as that's drama, I'm okay with that for a story purpose, you know?
Yeah. But, like, there's a line to it. It's like,
Oh,
I feel like
absolutely.
it passes way too often the point of being gratuitous. And I think that definitely, I think, is kind of unnecessary.
I definitely agree with you.
Mm-hmm. Ugh. Yeah. Yeah. So, and any highlights?
Legitimately Pruska showing up. That was actually something I really enjoyed, because it's like, there she is, she's still here! Kind of. Sort of.
Kind of.
We talked about Reg showing up, but Reg showing up in crazy, I don't know, paladin armor? I don't know what to call that different look, but it's really cool.
PS5 mode, because it's like more
PS5 mode.
like-
Yeah, Reg has traded in his PlayStation 4 for a PlayStation 5.
Yeah, I think the Reg moments are definitely really good in the season so far. Because, like I said, you're learning more about him. I kind of wish Nanachi had more presence. Like, I'm not sure how I feel about them kind of going back to kind of her being conflicted over Nitty.
You're kind of
It's
fridging
really-
Nanachi.
It's really weird for Nanachi to go, oh, you look like Mitty. Then therefore you are Mitty. What?
Well, gonna give up on all of my hopes and dreams.
It was a really weird choice. Everything with Reg, and honestly, everything with Riko has been really interesting. I've been enjoyed seeing the random villagers interact with Riko. Ma is Ma. Mugi is fun. I like Majikaja way too much. He's creepy, but he's entertainingly interesting. And I think
Yeah, I like
there's-
Majikaja.
and I think there's some bits of care in him to an extent.
Yeah, maybe. He might just be pragmatic, but
He might be. Yeah, I'm not saying he's a saint. He's not.
no.
That is
Definitely
not
not.
what I'm trying to imply. But I think that there's just a little bit left of that humanity in him, and I kind of like that. It's like, all these guys have been changed so much, but there's little bits and pieces in each of them that makes it interesting to see them. Except for Belf, that guy is just what the. Oh God, he looks and acts like a freaking Cthulhu monster.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that all the villagers kind of, their sense of morality is very warped in a way. Where it's like they don't view themselves as like they're doing anything wrong necessarily. And like I'm curious if that's gonna be addressed, like why that is, or if it's just like they've lived like this for so long that they don't view humanity in the same way that they used to.
I could see either or both. Because it's been forever. Like they weren't sure because the time apparently passes differently in the village.
Yes, that is also brought up. Voiko points out that because time has it moves at a different click in the abyss than it does on the surface, she doesn't know exactly how much time has passed on the surface compared to the very many years that it passed for the village developed.
Which might explain why Voiko's still alive despite seemingly being humanoid.
Yeah. Although she was,
I think something's keeping her alive.
She was actually very surprised that she still appeared human, though, to be fair.
Yeah, she did. So some standout voice performances for Voiko. Kristen McGuire is doing a great job with those very interesting monologues, and also later on when she's able to interact with Riko and the others. And good old Jay Hickman is Majikaja.
That maybe that's why I'm enjoying him so much. Is the voice delivery for Majikaja is just chef's kiss.
Okay, that's why it sounded familiar.
It is chef's kiss because it's Jorichiro.
There you go.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Solid dub. Of course, Brittany Lotta and Lucy Christian and Brittany Karbowski are still bringing it as the main trio. Really, really good performances all around. So, it's good. I felt like Wazukyan's voice was kind of off when he was in human form, but it kind of works for his hollow form.
Yeah, I could see that.
So, props to Brandon Hernsberger for being a very interesting character as Wazukyan.
And whoever voiced Ma is great because it's literally just Ma, but it works. Like it's got that R2D2 sense of I know what you're saying.
So apparently Annie Wilde.
Oh.
I'm not familiar with her work. And for those brief moments when we get to hear him talk, more David Harbold as Bondrude.
Oh, Bondrude.
I hate that guy, but I sure enjoy his voice.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. And Avery Smithhart returning for the cameos as Prushka. And Monica Rial returning to make the MIDI noises.
All good stuff.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes. And what is? Shoot, I'm looking at a cast list for an episode where she isn't in it, but Fapta's Cat. Is it Cat Thomas? That sounds right. I think so. Yeah. Yes, that sounds right. Yes, she's doing a good job as Fapata, incorporating the fun speech quirks that Fapata has.
Yep. I also just like to shout out the intro and especially the ending songs because holy cow, they're good.
Yeah, both are really good. They're very, very good. And oh boy, when you're watching the outro go on Toonami, it's a zoom.
Mile a minute tag.
Very, very fast.
Needs of the broadcast, as it were.
The ED speed run.
You know, the song says, "I will remember you," but I'm not sure I can remember if it goes by that fast.
Yeah, right. I still remember you.
Seriously, I've had that stuck in my head since I started watching this. Like it comes out of nowhere. I'm like, yeah, there's that song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the opening is quite good too.
Oh yes,
very, very fun. And the cut on Toonami's not bad, so that's good. It's just real shame when a good opening gets a not so great edit.
Yeah.
It's happened many, many times.
It is an unfortunate reality, although when they work, it can actually sometimes be better. There are certain cuts that I find to be more fun when they're shorter like that. It just depends.
Sometimes.
Usually I do prefer the full version, though.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we've dug deep enough into this topic.
We've plunged too far. There is no going back.
For now. There is no going back. If you have any additional thoughts on Made in Abyss, you can email us at podcast@ToonamiFaithful.com. You can follow us on Facebook.com/ToonamiFaithfulPodcast and on Twitter @ToonamiPodcast. You can listen to the podcast on just about everything, including Apple Podcasts, Castbox, Deezer, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Overcast, Podbay, Podbean, Podcast Addict, Radio.com, Spotify, Stitcher, and the TuneIn app. And of course, on SoundCloud.com/ToonamiFaithfulPodcasts. And you can get the latest news by following @Toonami News on Twitter and read the news, views, and reviews on ToonamiFaithful.com. Pretty good. I only stumbled over one of those. Yeah, we're on a lot of things now. I didn't even realize how many things we were on until I looked at the podcast page. I was like, oh, wow. That's way more than I usually mention.
So many places, so little time.
Yeah, right. So we're on all the things. And some choice episodes are also on YouTube. There you go. And we will continue to experiment with other things as we think of them. If there is actually some podcast thing that we're not on and we don't know about, let us know. But I think we got it covered. Anyway. Laser, tell them where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter @LaserKidPrime. You can find me, of course, on VLord's Demon Slayer podcast and several other fun podcasts in the VLord podcast universe. And you can find my editorials right here on Toonami Faithful.
All right. And VLord, tell us about the VLord podcast universe.
Yes, so to start with, you can find me on Twitter @VLordGTZ, and then I write various things for the Toonami Faithful website, as well as mangamavericks.com, so you can check out my writing over there. And then, like Laser mentioned, I host the Demon Slayer podcast on Twitter @DSlayerPodcast, and then a number of other podcasts that are all part of the greater VLord podcast universe, the Dumb Weebs podcast, which Laser is also on, Saturday Night Shaggy, and Oversoul Shaman King podcast. So check out all of those.
All right. And you can find me on Twitter @Sketch1984. And with that, we're going to wrap this show up. So thank you for listening to the podcast every time we put one out. We hope you enjoyed this conversation. and look forward to our next conversations about Made in Abyss, which there might be 2 more, probably. Or maybe just 1 if we get lazy. But we're reaching the point where these episodes are going to have a lot in them, so it'll be probably better to cover less of them at one time. I initially actually only wanted to cover the first 3 before we talked about this, but time pressed onward. So missed that opportunity. So we was like, all right, first half, let's go. So I think all things considered, we did all right. So we don't know what the new year holds for Toonami, but we'll be sure to let you know when we know. But we do know what they're doing for the rest of the year. That is, the last 2 Saturdays of the year in December. On Christmas Eve, they will be airing 4 episodes of Primal, the last 4 episodes of the 2nd season. That will air from midnight till 2 a.m. Yeah, Toonami is an hour shorter than usual, but the rest of the lineup is all Christmas programming, and honestly, this 2 hours of Primal sticks out like a sore thumb, so frankly, maybe they shouldn't even have aired Toonami that week, but they're airing it. So if you want to enjoy some late night Primal on Christmas Eve, there you go. And on New Year's Eve, the seminal classic Fooly Cooly returns for all 6 episodes from midnight till sometime after 3 a.m. I'm sure the last episode would run along like usual. So, happy holidays, everybody, but we'll have one more podcast for the end of the year.
You value podcast. Machikaja value. Like and share.
You didn't say Hado.
Hado. Machikata forgot.
Later.